Kenya's opposition leader Raila Odinga wants changes to his country's electoral commission before he can take part in the rerun vote called by the Supreme Court.
Odinga told supporters that his coalition would only go to election when they are sure the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission will not take a side. President Uhuru Kenyatta insists the poll should be rerun with the current electoral board, while the opposition wants the board dismissed.
We have said that you cannot force Kenyans to go to the polls that is being supervised by thieves. We will not accept. We cannot put our goats in a cackle of hyenas. A hyena cannot shepherd goats, and they, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, cannot protect our votes. We will only go to the elections when we are sure that the ones organizing the elections are people who will not take sides.
Strong words coming from Raila Odinga there, the opposition leader who lost in the Kenyan election, but it looks like he might just turn out to be the winner if he has his way. Now, joining us is senior researcher, TVC News, Cyril Abaku. Good morning, and thanks for joining us, as always, to talk about Kenya.
Yes, thank you, Ngozan.
This decision by the Supreme Court, well, it's out there. It's no longer news that the Supreme Court has overturned the Uhuru Kenyatta's election result. Now, is Raila Odinga asking for too much when he says he will not be part of this election, the rerun, if something is not done about the IEBC?
I think he knows better than to make that call. Odinga is a political veteran, and he understands the advantage or the benefits that come with sounding populist. But if we look at the Kenyan constitution itself, I think Article 143 of the 2010 constitution, which he also personally oversaw its emergence as Prime Minister in 2010, stipulates that for changes to be made to the body, to the IEBC, you know, it has to be either by death, by resignation, or by setting up a tribunal, which is going to go through Parliament first of all. Because as it is now, President Kenyatta is what they call, in Kenyan terms, temporary incumbent president. That is, he's under temporary incumbency. He cannot even hire or fire ministers. There's a lot he cannot do because he is not, as it were, a full-fledged president. There's a lot that's been taken away from him. Between when the first vote takes place and when whoever won that vote is sworn in, the incumbent president is under temporary incumbency. So he does not exercise full powers to make those sweeping changes, one. Number two is the fact that the court ruling that mandated Kenyans to go back to the polls said that the IEBC should conduct the elections. Now, the IEBC itself has said that they are going to, within 21 days from when the judgment was given, the Supreme Court was going to make, or is going to release the fuller judgment, so that the IEBC will now know where exactly
it aired.
It aired. And then, for the Commission to have also come out to pledge that they are going to make changes to its personnel to ensure integrity. I think we should let the matter take an organic course instead of making this populist, you know, this sort of. Of course, I know Odinga. He knows how to catch on to these things.
Exactly,
to make,
but would you blame him really? Because recall when we were talking about this preparation for the election, and then during the election and afterwards the reaction, and then now he was talking and complaining, and then we thought it was just the rambling of a man that thought he was still going to win the fourth time around. So him saying all of this, and of course there are people there, even the Deputy Finance Minister was saying that Raila Odinga shouldn't celebrate yet. Many analysts have said it in Kenya as well, that unless people in the IEBC are changed, that the same thing would happen.
Well, I think that the IEBC itself has a moral obligation to Kenyans and to the whole world, because the judgment of the Kenyan Supreme Court has put Kenya in the rank of countries like Ukraine, Austria, and the Maldives, where to date we can only say that is where the judgments like this have upturned presidential elections. Is the first on the continent.
African continent.
The burden of proof, the burden of this disgrace on the one hand, and victory for the institutions on the other hand, lies squarely on the IEBC. The judgment didn't fall the Jubilee coalition. When the Supreme Court said, "Hey, you come, commission, allow the opposition party officials to access your servers and inspect and see how this thing turned out," the IEBC turned it down. That was why the court said, okay, since you won't let that happen, go back and conduct fresh elections. The fact is that there are as Odinga rightly pointed out, the election was won by Kenyatta digitally, but Odinga said they defeated them manually. You know why? Because up until as I speak with you, there are some forms, some manual forms that the IEBC was supposed to have scanned and put online that they've not scanned and put online.
And that's where the problem is.
That's the problem.
So Africa is really not ready for electronic voting. Is that what we're saying?
Well, I think we are. I think we are. It's just that, you know, the Kenyan example may not be the best example, but I think we are. Because I mean, if you look at the failure rate of the voter machines in 2013 and what it has become in 2017, there's been a marked difference. But I think that difference ought to count. In Nigeria too, we had cases where the voter machines were brought on board. They worked in a place and they didn't work in other places. I think with time, with repeated use, might just get us there. You wouldn't have thought of this that in 2017 even a Supreme Court can have. So I think it's a journey.
So Africa has come a long way democratically.
Of course.
All right, so should the Kenyan people now adopt, for clarity now, and of course for transparency, for justice, rerun election, adopt option A4, open ballot system, and abandon the electoral system so that everyone knows, okay, this is the long line behind this candidate, and this is the short one behind this one. Anything for transparency. Because it seems if they do not get it right this time around, Odinga, that has been talking for a while, we know what happened in the past. We pray not.
Well, it's quite a delicate. I personally wouldn't say that because the machines malfunctioned or didn't function as much as they should, or that the process itself was manipulated. We should leave the process and go back to where we were 10, 20, 40 years ago. I think that with the way global evolution, I mean, with the way technology is evolving and the way people are moving, Kenya is a highly digital country. What I think we should do is to seek to fix those areas that had issues. I'm not saying that because of failures in one or two places, we should do
Gambia conducted its own election and it was quite transparent.
Of course, it was transparent, but yes, but the Gambia, but you cannot compare Gambia's digital compliance with that of Kenya. And in any case, we can't say that because it didn't apply digital methods that it would have been a failure if they are done.
Now, this election, Cyril, because we hardly have much time, was dubbed free and fair in spite of the irregularities. And it's the international observers, international press that came up with this, in spite of saying that the irregularities were actually insignificant. I wonder what we should make of this. Are they becoming, should we trust
the
observations of the observers?
Yes, I get what you mean. I think the excuse that they are giving now is that they gave credibility to the polls, not the counting, not the outcome. Okay. That's a very smart way of saying, look, you know, but because like Odinga pointed out, he said, to put credibility on the back seat and put stability ahead of credibility does not help the democratic process, particularly in Kenya's own example. But I think that, by and large, I personally feel that the international community had its own stake in the process. This is not to sound unfair to them, but I think that they had their own stake in the process. Let's go back to the polls within 60 days.
Yes,
and let's ensure that, yes, those particular areas and specific issues that were raised are taken care of. Kenyans should have a second chance at deciding who should become the president in the next 5 years.
Thank you very much for your analysis. Our Senior Research Officer, Cyril Abaku. Thank you as usual.
My pleasure.